She's an award-winning journalist, a newsroom leader, and a mentor to the next generation of storytellers.
Naisip ko, may hustisya kasi pag may ginawa kang mali, pwede kang maisulat sa dyaryo. Kasi sa trabaho natin, ang daling lamunin ng sistema.
She has covered presidents, political drama, and power struggles up close.
Actually, yung nire-report natin, baka 30% lang ng totoong kwento. Because 70% of the stories in Malacanang are not reported sa media. Ang trabaho natin is truth-telling. Hindi lang storytelling, but really truth-telling, no?
She helped shape the country's future journalist.
Pero kung haharap ko sa estudyante mo every week, nahihiya naman siguro, di ba? May konting kahihiyang ka naman na huwag ka namang talamak. Kung for them, wala silang nakitang mali in interviewing the Discayas. And again, for me, it will boil down to the framing of the story.
We will go behind her journey, the gossips and untold stories from the corridors of power. Totoo ba talaga that there's also talagang media corruption?
Oo naman, tingin ko totoo yan.
And her perspective on the state of Philippine media and democracy.
Social media, it has also been
A challenge?
a challenge, a great challenge for press freedom.
Now let's go to AI. That's another challenge sa media.
Sobra.
Mas mahirap ba siya kaysa disinformation?
Hindi naman sa mas mahirap, pero it will actually challenge us more in the sense that you have to upskill. May mga skills talaga na hindi kayang talunin ng AI.
Please welcome Professor Joyce Pañares. Professor Joyce Pañares, thank you. Thank you for taking time, for making time, and for allotting time. Ang dami sinabi.
For time yun
For all the time. For all the time, no? Na binigay mo sa amin dito. Ang daming nating pag-uusapan, no? Kasi ang daming pinag-uusapan ngayon, lalo na pagdating sa media. Unahin ko muna ang personal journey mo, personal mong karanasan. You've seen Philippine politics up close, from the palace press room to the newsroom. Ngayon, you're the managing editor of the Manila Standard. What first drew you into journalism? And was there a defining moment that made you say, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my career?
Well, actually, may backstory yun kung bakit ako napunta sa journalism. And I rarely tell this to other people, no? So when I was 6 or 5 years old, banner kami ng dyaryo. Banner kami ng tabloid. Ang title niya, Kapitan ng Barko Nag-amok. So yung dad ko noon was, nag-amok siya, literal, no? And it became the banner of a tabloid. And at an early age,
you're the story, kumbaga.
yes, we were the story. And at an early age, naisip ko, may hustisya. Kasi pag may ginawa kang mali, pwede kang maisulat sa dyaryo.
So yung father mo yung nag-amok?
Yeah.
Totoong tatay mo to, ha?
Ay, oo
I'm
naman.
sorry, kasi since nung nakilala kita, hindi ko nakilala yung tatay mo.
Yeah.
So, hindi ko alam na may ganung storya. So, this is, first time na narinig ko sa'yo. Anong nangyari?
Well, I suppose typical of how some families become dysfunctional at some point, no? So, ayun, literal, the verb use was nag-amok, no? Pero actually, medyo nagwawala siya dun sa bahay, and then yung mga barangay tanod dumating, he was taken away, and then the next day I found out that it was the banner of a tabloid. And yun yung exact title, di ko nakakalimutan hanggang ngayon.
So dahil doon?
Partly because wala rin ako yatang ibang marketable skills, no? Except that I think I can write well.
Yeah.
And I can interview people well. So yun, kaya ako napunta talaga sa journalism.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Si Professor Joyce ay The first summa cum laude.
Hindi,
no?
mali.
Tama ba? Tama ba ako?
Hindi.
Summa cum laude sa UP.
My classmate was the first summa cum laude. I
But
was
you are-
magna cum laude.
Okay. You're the magna cum laude of your class. Class what?
Huwag na nating banggitin ng taon. That was 20 plus years ago.
Okay. Oo. So, kaya hindi ka lang ganun hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na dahil marunong ka lang magsulat, you are magaling because you're magna cum laude. Now ngayon, pag-usapan natin yung current situation. How different ba is it to be the one setting the editorial compared to being on the ground as a beat reporter?
Well, ibang-iba talaga. Ibang-iba. Actually, I would suppose, no, reporters always have that resistance pag papasok na sila sa desk. It's a promotion, but on the other hand, namimiss mo yung araw-araw, nasa boots on the ground ka eh. Ikaw yung naghahabol ng storya, nakikita mo how the story develops, as opposed to nasa desk ka, tas nag-uutos ka. Iba yung set of skills na kailangan pag nasa desk, as opposed to pag nasa ground ka rin. So,
mas sabihin natin, mas marami kang nagagawa pag nasa desk ka compared to...
Mas komplikado siya in a way. Because pag reporter ka, para kang kabayo na may blinders eh. Nakatuto ka sa beat mo. Pag nasa desk ka, para kang eye on the sky.
Yeah.
Kita mo lahat ng nangyayari sa lahat ng beats. And paano magdudugtong-dugtong halimbawa yung sinabi ng palasyo, sa reaction sa Senado, sa reaction sa House, plus the fact that you're editing everybody's shit, no? So parang, nung reporter ka, grammar mo lang yung problema mo. Ngayon, grammar ng lahat ng tao ang nagpapasakit sa ulo ko. So parang, kailangan mas pasensyoso ka din. Saka mas kumbaga pag nag 1+1 ka, hindi lang 2 yung nakikita mo, no? You really see the bigger picture.
Being the number 2 of the Manila Standard, what lessons naman or philosophies from your early career still guide how you write and how you lead today as a journalist?
Ako siguro 2 instances yung humulma sa akin hanggang ngayon, no? Yung una, yung isang namayapa naming editor-in-chief, si Sir Jojo Robles, lagi niyang tinuturo sa akin noon, kaya mo dapat isara ang buong dyaryo kahit nag-iisa ka lang. So, ibig sabihin nun, hindi ka pwedeng politics lang ang inaalam mo. Kailangan naintindihan mo lahat. Lifestyle, sports. Of course, hindi kasing lalim ng understanding ng section editors na yun, ano? Pero kung push comes to shove, no? Kung in an event of a nuclear attack, at ikaw na lang yung natira sa newsroom, dapat maisara mo pa rin. At ma-meet mo ang deadline. Napakasagrado ng deadline pagdating sa print media. Yeah. Of course, nagbago yan nung naging online na lahat kasi wala nang deadline. 24/7 yung news cycle. But for the print, still, the deadline remains sacred.
So, bigat ng ginagawa mo, trabaho mo bilang managing editor, bakit mo mas pinipili pa rin, no? O bakit o saan ka kumukuha ng panahon, ng time, ng hugot, ng ano mo na gusto ko magturo pa rin every weekend. Gusto mo pa rin maging official ng media, watchdog journalism, or ano ba yun? Media organization. Ang dami mong ginagawa eh. Ang dami mong hats.
Siguro kasi, I really consider myself lucky, JV, no? So, parang feeling ko lahat ng nangyari sa career ko fell into my lap without that much effort on my part. Kasi parang hindi pa ako nakaka-graduate, may offer na sa akin na magtrabaho. I started working, I was still in college.
Yeah.
Tapos parang nung the next job offer, dumating din siya without me having to apply, no? So parang feeling ko, sa sobrang swerte ko, parang kailangan ko magbalik. And ito, cliche as it may sound, no? Yung pagtuturo, tingin ko, it benefits me more than it benefits my students.
Why? Paano? O how?
Kasi sa trabaho natin, ang daling lamunin ng sistema. Pero kung haharap ka sa estudyante mo every week, nahihiya naman siguro, di ba? May konting kahihiyang ka naman na huwag ka namang talamak. Kasi haharap ka sa estudyante, tapos magtuturo ka, tapos alam mo sa sarili mo, talamak ka. So parang for me, it's a constant reminder na dati, katulad ka rin nila. idealistic ka, gusto mong gawin yung mga bagay dahil tama. Kahit mahirap, alam mong tama yung ginagawa mo.
Ang daming nagbago na since pandemic, di ba? Ano-ano yung mga challenges? Ano yung mga nakita mong pagbabago since simula nung pandemya? Lalo na sa pagtuturo ng journalism.
Well, obviously, no, there was a gap period during the pandemic, first 3 years, na even yung mga estudyante, hindi mo may palabas. Kasi nga parang lahat nun, I suppose they were doing online classes or hybrid classes.
Yeah.
And then slowly, ginawa na nila na parang 50% of the time nasa classroom kayo, 50% hybrid pa rin. So kasi bago ako napunta sa UP, sa iba-iba ako nagturo, no?
Yeah.
So I taught sa Kalayaan College, tapos nagpunta akong Lasal. And then UP said, "Oy, bumalik ka na dito." So balik ka syempre sa
alma mater
sa alma mater mo. Ang hirap kasi may mga estudyante na magaling magsulat, pero wala nung social skills na dapat na de-develop kung nakakalabas sila to cover. So yun yung isa sa... So nung hinawakan ko yung... Kasi I usually teach newsroom or news writing to those 2 classes. So pag news writing class talaga, I really make it a point na palabasin sila. Kasi di ba tayo, ang teaching sa atin, para dapat kangkong. Kahit saan ka itapon, dapat tutubo ka kaya may tubig o wala. So yun yung dapat ma-develop sa kanila.
Sa lahat ng journalist, diba?
Yeah, more than the command of the English grammar, because anyway, that can be edited. You have an editor, no? Yeah. It's the nose for news that you have to really develop. Yeah, and in fact, between the two, I would rather have someone na pangit ang grammar, pero ang lakas ng pang-amoy sa balita. Yung grammar niya, kaya kong... Oo. Ako minsan, I tell my reporters, ikwento mo sa akin in Filipino. Pag hindi ko maintindihan yung kopya nila or magulo, lalo kung usapin ng ilan ang namatay, ilan ang wounded, or kung in the dialect, ikwento mo sa akin in the dialect, and then aayusin ko yung kopya mo. Ang importante, nakuha niya yung storya.
Alam mo, ang dami ko rin mga narinig na mga nagtuturo ng journalism. At isa rin sa mga reklamo, pareho-pareho ko ng reklamo na kung tama ba, pwede mong i-correct na maraming naging tamad o naging tamad simula ng pandemya. Nagbago yung workflow, nagbago yung paraan ng pagsusulat nila.
Ang daming kasing naging changes during the pandemic na nag-carry over kahit hindi na pandemic period ngayon. So unang-una, even at the professional setting, no?
Yeah.
Lahat ng beats noon, they were doing press conferences via Zoom.
Yes.
Ang daming nawawala pag via Zoom ang press con natin. Unang-una, hindi mo naman maaaninag yung non-verbal cues nung kausap mo. Pag magkaharap tayo, alam mo kung galit na yung source, di ba? Namumula ang pisngi, namumula ang tenga, ang galaw na ng kamay, nagtatap ng paa. Pero pag Zoom yan, ano yan? Tititigan ko ng maigi yung maliit mong box kung galit na ba to, napipikon na ba to. Tapos pag Zoom, wala kang follow-up question kaagad. Yeah. May delay. Kasi may tatawag sa'yo eh. Usually may moderator yung Zoom eh.
Yeah.
Diba? So halimbawa, may sinabing kalokohan yung source or nagsinungaling siya doon sa datos niya, hindi mo kaagad ma-challenge kasi paano kung hindi ka tinawag?
Diyan papasok yung relationship ng reporter sa source niya.
Exactly. Dapat hindi ka dependent doon sa...
During our time, I'm sorry, yung siguro nung panahon na wala pang pandemya, naalala ko yun Professor Joyce, na hindi tayo nagre-rely sa press con. Yeah. Hindi tayo nagre-rely lamang sa press con. Nangangalap tayo ng mga istorya sa iba pang mga sources. Diba? Naalala niyo yun?
Sa actual legwork. Halimbawa sa Malacanang.
Yeah.
Hanggang ngayon, sort of weaponized yung pandemic, no? So, hindi lahat ng reporters pwedeng pumasok ng sabay-sabay. Hindi katulad nung pre-pandemic, pwede tayong mag-abang sa loob ng Malacanang.
Yes.
Para kung may cabinet meeting, paglabas ng mga gabinete, pwede nating mahabol yung storya natin.
Yes.
Ngayon,
hinahatak natin yung cabinet secretary.
Yes, literal na hinahatak.
Yeah.
Ngayon, dahil hindi lahat, parang pooled coverage pa rin palagi.
May pooled pa rin?
Oo, may pooled pa rin hanggang ngayon. I suppose they're still maintaining social distancing or... But anyway, hindi lang Malacanang yung ganun na. There are still other beats that also do the same, no? Yun ang isa sa na-notice ko. Parang, minsan, yun yung frustration ko din. Parang, may mali nang sinabi yung source, hindi pa question ka agad. Hindi pa vinivet.
Yeah.
Parang, dapat yun, automatic yun eh. Kaya lang yun nga, the environment does not make it conducive, no? Ang nangyayari, after the press con, maghahabol ka.
Yes.
Magtatawag ka.
Oo.
Paano kung hindi na sumasagot yung source, di ba? So, yun yung mga nagiging problema.
Yun talaga yung malaking, ako rin, napansin ko rin yan, malaking pagbabago. Kasi dati, hanggang sa baba, naghagdan ng new executive building o yung Burloloy building, hinahabol pa natin yung source hanggang sa makapasok siya sa kabilang side ng Malacanang, di ba?
Ako ito, I have an experience just this year, no? I was following up something sa isang departamento because I thought the data that was given by that department was fantastically incorrect. Mali talaga. So, tinawagan ko yung spokesperson. And then, ang sagot niya sa akin, parang nagdi-dinner siya, huwag ko raw siyang istorbohin. Tapos, sinabihan pa niya ako na tapos na ang oras ng trabaho kasi past 5 p.m. na. Ay, ang akin naman, parang unang-una, frontliner yung departamento mo. Sa usapin na yon, in that context, hindi ka dapat nagsasabi na tapos na ang trabaho. Ikalawa, di ba dapat magpasalamat ka nga, nabigyan ka ng pagkakataong i-correct yung datos niyong mali. So, parang... So, hindi lang sa atin yung nagkaroon ng problem. I suppose even the spokespersons, the PIOs, nag-iba rin ng kuante yung dynamics nila.
Nag-iba rin yung paraan ng pag-ano nila sa
disseminate
media.
ng information then, yes.
Now, let's go back to your role as Malacanang Press Corps. Malacanang Press Corps President. During my time, you were our president, no? So, ngayon, how does being inside Malacanang change your understanding of politics and compared to watching from the outside?
Tingin ko malaking bagay at malaking pribilehiyo, in fact, na nakikita natin noon as things unfold.
Yung nasa gitna tayo ng kasaysayan, di ba?
Nasa gitna ka talaga. History on the run yan.
Yes.
Tapos, hinahabol mo siya. Chasing history as it happens. No? But then you also realize, actually, yung nire-report natin, baka 30% lang ng totoong kwento. Because 70% of the stories in Malacanang are not reported sa media simply because they're not told to the media.
Yes.
Diba? Ang daming nangyayari. Kumbaga, nasa front row na nga tayo, pero hindi ibig sabihin 100% nakikita natin.
Pero ano naman, paano may co-compare yung Malacanang Press Corps nung time mo at sa ngayon? Kasi sabi mo, nag-change rin naman talaga ng paraan. Lalo ng public information dissemination.
Maraming pagbabago, I suppose. And it might not be... Kumbaga, iba yung environment nila ngayon. As opposed to yung environment natin
before.
Noon. Oo. Na mas madali, mas may access tayo. Aminin na natin yon. Mas may access because nakakapasok ka sa loob.
And we're very critical.
Siguro naman hanggang ngayon.
We're friends, but pagdating sa istorya, hindi tayo friends. Yung parang gano'n, no?
Oo.
Tama ba yung pagkakasabi ko? Kahit kaibigan natin yung mga opisyal, pero hindi tayo pinakikialaman.
Ako nga ang sinasabi ko dun sa reporter namin sa Malacanang. Kinikwento ko sa kanya lagi, dati, sorry for the term ako pa yung medyo nang babribe ng official. Nagdadala ako ng donut sa record section ng Malacanang.
Para makakuha ng
Para makakuha ko ng dokumento. Kasi wala nang pupunta dun eh. Walang nagtsatsagang maglakad papunta sa lumang building ng palasyo kung asan ang record section.
Yes.
Andun lahat ng papeles.
And credit to kay sino to kay Ate Kay? Yung SALN ng Malacanang dati, as in, they're very transparent, no?
Yeah.
Nakalatag sa
Ilalatag sa atin.
Oo, hindi na natin although redacted, pero alam mo yun, may transparency.
At the very least, you get the copy,
yes.
No? May kopya kang pinanghahawakan.
Correct.
So, iba yung challenges ngayon din ng press corps, iba yung challenges natin noon. But of course, the bottom line remains the same, no? Ang trabaho natin is truth-telling at hindi lang storytelling, but really truth-telling, no? So, yung principles, still the same even if the environment has changed.
Alam ko, dahil mo ng experience dyan sa politika, sa Malacanang. What one story from your Malacanang years that never really made it to the headlines but revealed how power actually works?
Oh my God. Hindi siya na headline on the day that it happened. Na headline siya a few months after, and it almost toppled the presidency. So I'm not sure kung ando doon ka na noon, but this was the time of President Arroyo. And then, nasa China kami, and suddenly we were informed, gustong mag-Hong Kong ni Presidente. So, lahat kami unprepared, pati Maro. It was such an hurried decision na nakatira kami sa isang parang tenement sa Mongkok, which does not usually happen. Usually, maayos naman na hotel kahit papano. Ito talaga yung literal na pag-akyat mo, may police line, do not cross pa dun sa apartment namin kasi may pinatay dun sa katapat. Tapos pagbaba mo, mga dried mushrooms yung nakakalat, ganyan. Ganyang level. And then, wala namang official engagement si Presidente. Pero we were told that she was in Hong Kong. Kaya kami nasa Hong Kong. Kasi kung asan ng Presidente, kailangan andun ka dahil baka may mangyari. And then, a few months later, pumutok yung NBN-ZTE deal.
Oh, kasi magkatabi lang ang Hong Kong tsaka Shenzhen.
Nagpirmahan sila sa Hong Kong.
Is it
In a golf...
Mission Hills?
Oo, yata. But anyway, we didn't know. Wala talaga, as in. Nalaman na lang namin na, ando dun kami nung araw na yon, but we didn't know what was happening. That's why I said, maswerte na tayo enough because nasa front row tayo ng history. But even from our position, we do not see the entire picture.
Hindi sa lahat ng panahon. Meron tayong access. Kasi ito naman talaga yung sinasabi mo na iba-ibang administrasyon, iba-iba rin ng protocols.
Iba-iba ng protocols, iba-iba ng polisiya, iba-iba ng level ng quote-unquote friendliness to the media.
Yes. Yeah, nadagdagan pa ng mga natural calamities like pandemic, di ba? Tapos, kung lagi tayong critical, lalong hindi ka makakalapit. But it's our job, no? Trabaho ng media yan eh. Ngayon, pagdating sa trabaho kasi natin, hindi lang tayo nakaka-encounter ng ganyang problema, nakaka-encounter din tayo ng propaganda.
Of
How
course.
do you detect when you're being fed propaganda, and how do you push back?
Well, siguro kasi ako, ang training ko mula pa sa nanay ko. From a very young age, she told me, do not trust anyone. You should always leave 2% sa sarili mo. So parang kahit na anong sabihin sa akin, I always take it with a grain of salt, no? So it's not like I will immediately believe you.
Yeah.
Pero yung disbelief na yon, I will have to back it up with, I will try to get someone else to either confirm or deny what you said. Kasi yun naman ang...
Two sources confirmation.
2 or more, di ba? As many sources. Kasi, totoo naman, wala naman talagang objectivity sa media.
Yeah.
Because, the moment you decide na kung 4 yung nagsasalita, itong una ang iaangat ko, hindi na objective. Naging subjective ka na, namili ka na kung sino ang pinakamalakas na boses sa storya mo. But you can still go for balance and fairness. No, so kung out na yung objectivity talaga, at the very least, balansehin mo naman yung storya mo. So pag may sinabi siyang ganito, binabanata niya si ganitong tao, sana man lang may
kunin mo yung
side nung kabila. Or sana may iba pang tao magsasabi na, alam mo, totoo yan. Or alam mo, hindi yan totoo.
Yeah. Totoo yan. Alam nyo, ano lang to for your information, no? Si Ate Joyce, si Professor Joyce ay isa sa mga nag-mentor sa akin pagdating sa political reporting. Because bago lang ako reporter sa radyo pa noon, 'di ba? Bago nag-TV5, pero kay Professor Joyce ako natutong magsulat sa Malacanang. Nagsusulat naman ako ng political, but dahil sa pagsashadow, pagko-comparean ko sa mga story, ito pala mag-angle dapat ganito. Kaya sabi ko, ang dami kong natutunan doon sa Malacanang because of Ate Joyce, no. Ngayon, itong propaganda, ay isa sa mga problema ngayon ng media, or sabihin na natin, yung mga latest na pangyayari, no? Like, what can you say about the interview of the Discayas with Julius Babao and
God.
Corina Sanchez? You're saying being a journalism professor and an official of a media organization.
Siguro kaya sila naging controversial yung interviews, and there was such a mixed reaction to the interview kasi siguro it boiled down to framing. Paano ba frame yung storya?
Yeah.
Huminto ka ba kasi inspiring itong kwento nila? Kasi 60 plus yung kotse nila? Or if i-frame mo ba siya in a way na bakit 60 plus ang kotse nyo? Saan kayo kumuha ng yaman nyo? So, doon siguro nagkakatalo. Sabihin, regardless kung malinis o hindi, or ang motibo ng interview.
Sinabi nila, magazine show naman kami.
Yes, exactly. So, kung for them, wala silang nakitang mali in interviewing the Discayas. And, again, for me, it will boil down to the framing of the story. So, nung sinabi sa'yo na kumita siya sa DPWH, dapat siguro may follow-up question ka. Paano? Anong klaseng kita? Yan, di ba? So,
questionable na agad.
Oo, dapat siguro dapat may red flag na kaagad na pumitik sa ulo mo na, teka muna, nagsimula kayo na ganito kaliit, tapos biglang lolobo yung pera nyo ng ganito kalaki. So marami pang pwedeng itanong. And I think, had they been able to ask the other questions that were not asked during those interviews, baka hindi ganon ang reaction doon sa naging interview ni na Julius at ni Corina sa mga Discayas.
Yung ginawa ni Mayor Vico Soto, ano mo sabi mo? May tama, may mali? What do you think?
Well, on one hand, it spurred the discussion. So at the very least, that in itself is, I think, okay.
Yeah.
No, kasi
pero he was also called out for insinuating that
he was called out. There was an insinuation kasi doon. And although he said na wala siyang pinapangalanan, but of course the photos that he posted, no. But then again, parang tama rin naman na pag-usapan kasi yon.
At tama rin na tayo sa media, nag-critic tayo.
Yeah, it should always be criticism, self-criticism, no? So kung kaya nating tama ba yung, if we can criticize people in power, we should also be able to criticize ourselves. At kung tutuusin, dapat mas higit ang kritisismo natin sa ating sarili. Kasi kung talamak yung media, sino pang mag-shine ng spotlight dun sa issues ng ating bayan? Diba? Kung hindi na, kaya tayo, kumbaga kaya on one hand, na-erode din yung public trust sa mainstream media.
Yes. Kaya nga tinatawag ang media na bias. Bayarang media,
bias media.
Prostitute.
Of course, you hate those terms, no? And I'm sorry, but personally, I hate the people who use those terms.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I will also be the first to tell you, there is much room for improvement sa atin.
Pero totoo ba talaga that there's also talagang media corruption?
Oo naman. Tingin ko totoo yan. And tingin
ito yung basis ng mga allegation nila.
And tingin ko, it's something na hindi lang siya yung corruption na pangmalakihan or corruption na pangmaliitan.
Systemic.
Minsan systemic din talaga. So, and I think it's present in any profession. Nagkataon lang na yung trabaho kasi natin, mahirap pag na-corrupt na yung media. Kasi sino pang magbabalita ng totoo? Parang ganun lagi yung, it boils down to that eh.
Yeah.
And ano siya multi-layered issue siya. Hindi lang siya issue ng, kasi easy money. Minsan, kasi mahirap talaga yung media. Kasi yung news organization na nag-hire sa kanya, hindi nagbabayad ng tama.
Correct.
May ganun ding issue, di ba?
Oo.
But then again, kung titingnan mo rin, sino ba yung mas may tendency maging corrupt. Hindi yung mas maliliit. Baka yung mas established pa siguro.
Yeah.
Kasi sila yung may kakayanang mag-command ng, I want this much payment.
Kumbaga, sila yung may premium. Diba?
Yeah. I think so. Kung meron mang buting na idulot itong entire thing na to, it's that we're discussing ethics more openly. We are discussing the need to be self-critical sa sarili natin. It's good. It's a good reminder for everyone na, diba, pinasok mo tong profession na to. It's a profession unlike any other profession. It demands a lot. It requires a lot.
Ethical standards.
Ethical standards must be upheld.
Yeah. So, paano mo inaano sa mga estudyante mo yan?
Oh, the way I explain ethics to them. Oh, God.
Ano mo yun?
I tell my students, I'm very pragmatic eh.
Mm-mm.
Kasi hindi naman ako academician. Ako yung practitioner na nagtuturo. So, alam ko yung pressure, difficulties, and lack, kung ano man yung mga gaps ng ating industriya. So, I tell them ethics is like one big line. It's a long line. It starts from accepting ball pens, notebooks, papakainin ka, ipapag-buffet ka, pamahal na ng pamahal yan. Hanggang saan
junket ka.
May junket ka na. Tapos, ang pinakadulo niyan yung ikaw na yung humihingi.
That's greed.
That's also unethical.
Yeah.
So, in that long line of ethics, I think very early on, dapat alam mo kung hanggang saan lang ang kaya mong sikmurain. It's a personal thing eh. Maaring magkaiba tayo ng dito lang ako. Kasi ang hirap doon, ang daling mag-move pa kaliwa. Ang daling mag-move forward. Pagsisimula ka, sasabihin mo, hanggang ballpen lang ako. Tapos binigyan ka ng, ano bang mahal na ballpen? Mont Blanc?
Yeah, Mont Blanc.
Binigyan ka ng Mont Blanc. I-justify mo ngayon yun sa utak mo, ballpen pa rin naman to eh. Tatanggapin mo siya kahit na 30,000 pesos siya. So, ang daling mag-move. Pero kung very early on, sinabi mo, hanggang dito lang ang kaya ko, baka naman it will serve as a constant reminder to you na hanggang dun lang talaga. Like I tell my students, kung may press con, may pagkain, please kumain kayo.
Yeah.
Diba, nakakatawa naman kung ang halaga lang ng ethics mo ay pagkain. Or kung may ballpen, ay Diyos ko, hindi kumuha kayo ng ballpen kasi lagi tayong ubos ang ballpen natin. Notebooks. Huwag kang umabot dun sa level na ikaw ang nanghihingi. Kasi yun, wala nang justification yun.
At huwag kang umabot din na naging parte ka na ng scheme.
Oh, yeah.
Like for example, naging protector ka ng mga corrupt.
Yan ang dapat iwasan.
Diba? Like, ano ba pwede nating i-set example? Yung Napoles. There were reports that may mga nasa payola ni Napoles na mga media.
Alam na nila na gano'n na nga yung
diba?
Sistema. They still
just
accepted.
for the protection. Diba? Ngayon sa flood control, wala akong nabalita ang may mga ganun. Pero kung meron man, that's, hindi ka ligtas dapat sa mga...
Tingin ko din, JV, yung audience mo, mas matalino ngayon.
Yes.
They're able to distinguish alin yung talagang praise release
at propaganda
sa totoong balita.
Totoong balita. Yeah. Totoo yun. Because of the yung equal access to information, I think malaking tulong yung social media because napapanood na ng audience mo yung live stream ng press conference. So, yun yung paraan nila to verify
for themselves.
If your story na nilabas, for example, in-air mo sa isang balita, ay anggulo mo lang. O, di ba kasi may ganun eh?
Yeah,
minsan,
pwedeng
natin,
kulang.
may kulay.
May sobra.
May sobra.
Or nabigyan ng slant para lang sa isang anggulo.
Totoo yun.
Pero, on the other hand, good you mentioned social media. It has also been
a challenge.
A great challenge for press freedom. Disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, the three kinds of information. Ako ayoko yung fake news kasi
you don't use fake news.
News should always be correct.
Truth.
And truthful.
Yes.
So I'd rather na we call it in their proper names, no? So it's either disinformation, malinformation, or misinformation.
Prof, can you please explain to our viewers the differences or compare the three keywords?
Yeah, so yung 3 types of information
malinformation,
disorder. So kung misinformation, nag-share ka lang ng maling balita pero wala kang intention manakit. So mali, walang intention.
Kumbaga, prinsipyo mo lang, naniniwala ka doon.
Or nagkamali ka lang talaga. Okay. Gumising ka today, nag-check ka ng walang pasok, hashtag. Tapos nakita mo pala 5 years ago. Pero na-share mo ka agad kasi na-excited ka, walang pasok. So you're misinformed. Disinformation, mali at may intention.
Ikaw mismo ang
gusto mo talagang manakit. Merong intent to harm. Pumasok ka sa sinihan, sumigaw ka ng sunog. Kahit na alam mo na pwede magka-stampede pag nagkaroon ng stress yung mga tao doon dahil may sunog. So that's a very simple example of disinformation. Or nagpakalat ka ng maling balita kahit na alam mo itutumba nun ang stocks mo. Or babagsak ang peso because of your false information. Malinformation, ito yung medyo mahirap hulihin. Kasi ito ay mayroong katotohanan pero may intent to harm.
Ginamit mo para manira ng tao.
Ginamit
yung isang dokumento.
So, for example, pwede kasi siyang out of context. Parang yung sinabi mo kanina, 1 oras yung video pero 5 minutes lang yung ginamit mo. Tapos yung importante pala andun sa 55 minutes. So, naiba na yung kwento dahil hindi mo binuo. Ang classic example ko dyan, 2. Dahil para naman tayong adults, I will give 2 examples. So, one is sexual, one is biblical. So, I'll start with the biblical. The first casualty of malinformation for me is Eve. Because sinabi ng snake sa kanya, you eat the apple, you gain wisdom. Pero hindi kompleto. Kasi kung sinabi ng snake na you also get kicked out of the garden, baka nagdalawang isip si Eve. Kasi kompleto yung information niya.
Yeah.
Yung sexual naman, kung halimbawa naman kayo ay mag-boyfriend, girlfriend, kinky kayo, nag-shoot kayo ng sex video nyo, ay naghiwalay kayo, pinakalat ngayon ng isa yung sex video, that's already taken out of context. Kasi nung shoot nyo yun, kayo pa. Nung pinakalat yon, wala na kayo. May intent to harm na.
Nung pandemic, ang daming mga malinformation. Like for example, yung
vaccine. Oh my God.
Yung COVID results.
Totoong
nagka-positive ka, pero
sasabihin.
Hindi pwede kasi masisira ka naman.
Masisira ka.
Hindi pwedeng i-release yan.
In fact, meron pa ako na nahagip nung pandemic na medyo deep fake. Yung mommy ko kamontik mabiktima kasi may umering video ng isang report, TV5 pa yata yon. Dinip fake yung video nila at ang ina-announce, huwag magpabakuna ang seniors dahil ikamamatay nila. When in fact, sila yung priority group for the vaccine nung COVID vaccines natin. Yeah. So I had to explain to my mom, hindi yan totoong video. Deep fake po yung video na yan.
Aside sa disinformation, we all know that the media landscape today is under siege because aside nga sa disinformation, aminin na natin to dahil sa shrinking business models. Maraming mga media ngayon, traditional media na nagbabawas ng tao, nagsasarado, nag-shift to digital, tama?
And hindi lang yan sa Pilipinas, that's worldwide.
Yeah.
That's a global trend.
But how do you see the role of legacy media sa evolving era or landscape ng information?
Well, I think the glory days of legacy media are just that. Glory days na lang yon. Hindi na babalik yung panahon na ang kapal-kapal ng dyaryo dahil ang daming advertisements.
Yeah.
Or ang daming classified ads, no? So, ngayon nga, it's, di ba ang laging joke sa dyaryo, print is dead.
Yeah.
Sabi ko nga, I think, it has been comatose for the past 10 years, no? It's not dead, but it's dying. It's just waiting to die. And ang pinag-uusapan pa natin, mainstream na malalaki. Mas lalo na siguro yung community newspapers natin.
Yeah, ikaw nakikita mo yun bilang...
Of course, as with PPI, no? Since Philippine Press Institute, we have about 60 members na mga community newspapers. Hirap talaga. Hirap na hirap. And ang worry pa, kasi kapag naging digital na yung mga government announcements. Ayun yung mga madalas source ng income sa community newspapers. Mawawalan sila niyan. Kasi sa Gazette pa lang considered as published na eh. So, ang dami talagang challenges. Plus, you have shrinking revenues, no? So, a lot of the revenue streams right now are going to other channels. Primarily for online, social media, no? Even nung elections, I think, sino ba yung naglabas ng datos kung gaano kalaki? Parang hindi rin ganun kalaki yung binuhos na ad sa TV, for example.
Nakaambag ba sa shrinking business models ng legacy media or traditional media yung pagbaba din ng public trust?
Oo naman. Tingin ko ando dun din yun. Kasama yun. It's kumbaga lahat factors yan that contributed to this kind of challenges that we're facing now. So, bumaba yung public trust mo, so definitely bababa yung readership, yung subscribers mo. And I think nitong pandemic, post-pandemic, na-realize din ng maraming PRs na mas kailangan sila ngayon ng media kaysa kailangan nila ang media.
Yeah.
On one hand. I've noticed that because there are a lot of PRs who would, for example, ask for advertorials. Okay lang naman yung advertorials, basta may trigger lang, no, na this is a paid ad or this is an ADVT. Pero ngayon, minsan ang hinihingi nila organic na itsura. And may mga dyaryo na minsan kailangan pagbigyan yon kasi sayang yung advertisement.
Yeah. Pero
may impact din yon sa trust, no, and ethics because iisipin ng tao, vinet ito kasi may byline. Ibig sabihin, ni-research, pinaghirapang sulatin, when in fact, advertorial pala ng isang PR.
So, what structural reforms should these newsrooms or the legacy media should make para maibalik yung, not just the trust, kundi yung dating kinang o dating lakas?
I cannot even attempt to answer that confidently. Kasi sa totoo lang, lahat ng legacy media ngayon nangangapa. We're trying our best to be online. We have our websites, diba? But we're not really earning that much from our websites yet. Kung titingnan mo ang percentage ng advertisements, parang mas marami pa rin from the print talaga kesa dun sa website namin. But we know for a fact na wala nang expansion ang print. Kumbaga, kung 20 pages ka ngayon, hindi na yan naabot sa panahon na magiging 32 pages siya ulit, no? So, it's really a matter of trying to find the correct business model on one hand, and on the other hand, attempting to stay afloat by sticking to your principles, no? Of truth-telling, of being a reliable source of information.
Yeah. Lalo na ngayon, napaka-polarized ng society natin. I think, ang isa sa mga problema, aside sa credibility issue, aside sa public trust, ang problema rin natin, divisive ang lipunan natin na ang naapektuhan din. Ay yung lagi nilang biniblame ay yung media. Yung bias, di ba?
Maraming countries na gano'n, hindi lang tayo.
Amerika nga lang.
Mas malala pa nga sa iba. Pero that is very common now na very polarized, very divisive, or minsan may false dichotomy ka din, di ba, na tingin mo one or the other lang, pero actually marami naman pang ibang choices. Pero yun, malaki yung papel kasi na ginagampanan ng media. And hindi lang ng traditional media, even your vloggers, even your content creators, your influencers, I actually think we should encourage them not to also raise the bar in doing their content. May mga media organizations, for example, PCIJ, nagtitrain sila ng content creators. On the other hand, nung sa Ateneo Center for Journalism naman, pinag-uusapan naman doon kung dapat bang include sa curriculum ang paggawa ng content. For media naman. Kasi parang yun yung kahinaan natin eh.
Yeah.
Hindi natin alam how to do content kapag hindi ka sanay kasi na nakaharap ka sa camera. Lalo na kung print ka, no? I mean, print is the most low-key among all the media. Diba tayo yung pwedeng magpunta sa palengke ng naka-duster kasi wala naman nakakilala sa mukha natin eh.
Balikan ko lang dun sa sinabi mo na nagko-content creator. Ano masasabi mo sa mga mainstream na nagko-content creator, stream, tapos they're trying to copy the American style of reporting, no, na hindi straight news or nag-straight news but merong commentary, opinion, like that.
I think it's hindi ko magamit yung term na trend eh. Pero
it's a trend.
Maybe it's an emerging form. No, na parang you mix
nagpakatotoo na.
Parang, because in the US naman talaga, napaka-ano nila eh. Kumbaga you can easily identify who's pro-Republican,
Hindi mo na kailangan hulaan. You just have to, sabihin mo lang sa akin anong channel. Alam ko na, liberal yan.
Alam mo na.
Conservative.
Pero yun nga, so it's all, we're also, some of our colleagues are also doing it.
Yeah.
And, yung iba naman sa kanila, umaalis sa mainstream, tapos yun na yung nagiging main
source of
income or channel nila, no? So, minsan nakakainggit kasi parang sanay na sanay sila sa camera. Samantalang, like ako, even if we're doing this podcast now, I'm still very much not comfortable being in the camera, no? So yun, siguro ang saving, hindi man saving grace, but I mean the shining light in that aspect is that hopefully because they're journalists, they would know better than they would share vetted information. They would make sure.
Kino-call out din ba sila? Kapag sumusobra na?
I haven't encountered yung talagang may nag-call out, no? Pero tingin ko naman yun nga, since ang expectation mo, dahil journalist yan, dapat naman, in-apply niya rin yung journalistic principles in doing the content, no?
Yeah, tama. Kung may opinion na, tingin mo, hindi na siya journalist.
Parang, di naman, because we also have column writers eh. And we still...
Okay, so paano mo
Pero dapat siguro, dapat very clear yon na opinion nila yon. Kasi halimbawa sa dyaryo, hindi ka malilito. Kasi sa taas may runner. News, pagdating dito, opinion. So walang pagkakalito na hindi ito balita at ito'y opinion. So siguro, kung ganun ang format, video, baka dapat lang may clear lang na trigger na sa opinion ko, in my opinion, para hindi naghahalo yung balita at ang opinion.
Opinion mo. Okay. Now, let's go to AI. That's another challenge sa media.
Sobra.
No? Mas mahirap ba siya kaysa disinformation?
Hindi naman sa mas mahirap, pero it will actually challenge us more in the sense that you have to upskill. For example, a basic example, in some newsrooms before, and this not probably newspaper, maybe in TV or radio, may mga transcribers ka. Hindi mo na kailangan ngayon.
So, nagbawas ka ng tao?
Nagbawas ka ng tao. Kung transcriber ka, ang kailangan mong gawin, mag-upskill ka. I-upskill mo yung sarili mo. So, meaning, hindi lang ako transcriber, kaya ko ring digest nitong transcript nito. Kaya kitang bigyan ng 10 bullet points from this transcript. But even then, kaya rin ng AI yan ngayon.
So, parang kumbaga, kakompetensya mo ang AI.
May mga skills talaga na hindi kayang talunin ng AI.
Ang tao.
Social skills for one. Wala sila nun.
Puso.
Yes, that's the term that we always want to use, puso. Pero alam mo yun, yung putting yourselves in the other person's situation. Rape victim, syempre mag-iiba yung pakikitungo mo, di ba? As opposed to politiko, iba rin siguro yung paraan mo ng pagtatanong. Kumbaga, knowing the correct way of asking things depending on the context. But in terms, for example, of summarizing a 300-page PDF, ay oh my God, talo tayo ng AI dyan. Kayang-kaya niyang gawin.
Ano pang mga nagiging challenges nyo sa usapin ng AI? At ano ba ang ginagawa ninyo aside sa upskilling?
Well, you have to understand it first, no? Anong AI ba ang tinutukoy natin? We're talking about generative AI kasi. Because AI has always been there. Diba? When you Google, that's AI.
Yeah.
But when you use Gemini, that's generative AI. Dapat alam mo siguro yung limits ng AI and how to use it properly. In fact, someone once told me, eventually, kailangan nating ituro ang prompt engineering. Which is
Prompt engineering.
yung tamang paraan ng pagbibigay ng prompt sa AI. Pagtatanong sa AI. Kasi madalas ang iba, gagamitin niya yung AI na parang ginagamit ng Google. Like, what is ganito? What is ganyan? And then you want AI to, that's very, kumbaga sayang naman yung AI kung ganun lang.
Yes. So, paano ba dapat?
For example, this is just a very basic example. I have a one-page story. It's, ako ang nagsulat. I wrote that story. But I want to make sure walang bias. So I'll ask AI, check this story for any bias. Or ang prompt ko sa AI, kasi napaka-technical nung sinulat ko, I want it to be more laymanized para mas madaling maintindihan. Rewrite this story in a way that can be understood by an 11-year-old child. So yung basic prompts na ganon, dapat alam natin yun, how to use those prompts properly.
So, practically you're saying that it's not wrong to use AI.
It's not. I mean,
It's
even in
not
the academe.
Or is it not unethical?
It's not unethical, but use it ethically. Using AI per se, pag nag-transcribe ka, author na ginagamit mo or maybe other AI functions, right? Hindi ka naman na nagmamano-manong transcribe ngayon.
Hindi ko alam.
Hindi ka nagtatranscribe.
Hindi ako nagtatranscribe.
For some people who transcribe, they don't need to do longhand transcription anymore. Unlike sa atin noon, talaga nagtatranscribe tayo.
This is the first time na malaman meron palang AI transcription.
May AI na nagtatranscribe. In fact, if you go for the paid AI transcription, kaya pa niyang ma-recognize ang Filipino words, for example. No, so hindi na masyadong madami kang babalik-balikan kung tama ba yun. But of course, you have to be careful because some of them, pag hindi nila marinig ng maayos, nag-hallucinate din. Tapos kung anong word na lang yung maisip nila, yun yung ilalagay nila. No? So, ang rule of thumb, if you're gonna use AI, it should always be tao, AI, tao. Sa'yo nang galing yung materyales, pina-check mo lang sa AI, tapos checkin mo ulit kung ano yung nilabas ng AI. You cannot allow AI to do the work for you, no? Hindi gano'n ang tamang paggamit.
Ako, like for example, ako, base experience ko, kailangan yung thought, yung laman, galing sa'yo.
Yeah.
Kumbaga, ako, nagpapacheck lang kay AI. Can you please polish yung grammar, edit, kung legally accurate ba, yung gano'n, mga ano. Ano, madalas kong ginagamit yung AI kapag mga body ng email. Yeah. Kasi hindi naman ako nag-aral ng yung mga writing ng email. So, inamin ko yun.
Kasi yung AI naman cannot generate something that's unique or original.
Yeah.
Kasi it's based on a data set that's available, no? So, dapat sa tao pa din.
So, what should our government do?
I think yung DICT
with regard sa AI,
I'm not sure kung DICT or CICC ang pero DICT I think is in the front line.
And DOST.
No? Pero simulan nila actually dapat sa eskwelahan. Kasi ang mga bata ngayon, hindi mo na kailangan turuan gumamit ng AI. Alam na nila how to use AI. So ang dapat nating agapan is that they're able to use it ethically and properly.
Yes, tama. And hindi dapat, kasi I remember, there are, bills na pinanukala, no, na i-regulate daw yung AI. Tama ba yun?
Paano mo siya i-regulate? Siguro dun
sa jobs
Oh yeah,
aspect.
maybe sa job aspect. Pero yun nga, tingin ko ang basic pa rin is you teach your people how to use it
Adapt.
properly. Oo.
Yeah. Adaptation
Like,
is...
even sa academe, you cannot say, don't use AI at all. But that doesn't mean you give me a plagiarized article, kasi mahuhuli din kita. So,
Meron din bang AI plagiarized story? Paano ba? Counter plagiarism AI?
may mga apps that can detect plagiarism.
Okay.
Pero ako kasi, siguro dahil sa matagal na rin namang nagtuturo, nakikita ko yung syntax ng estudyante ko.
So, paano yung mga estudyante mo, by the way? Paano mo inaano sa AI yan? Paano mo... May mga naggumagamit ba ng AI? May mga kino-correct ka doon?
Awa ng Diyos, sa news writing, wala pa akong nakikita masyado na. Kasi,
Nagsusulat?
kailangan nilang sulatin based on their interview.
Okay.
So, hindi pwedeng ipaggawa sa AI dahil
Experiential,
magko-cover sila ng police. So, nagpunta silang QCPD, nagpunta silang na station, nag-cover sila ng RTC, nag-interview sila kay Isko Moreno nung isang araw. Hindi yan kaya i-create ng AI dahil yung quotes ni Isko came from their interview.
Yeah.
Kung mag-AI man sila, siguro yun nga, grammar check or polishing ng story, pero hanggang dun lang.
Pero may mga nahuli ka ba ng mga estudyante?
May nahuli ako nag-plagiarize, pero hindi naman AI. As in, literal na siya yung... nangopya lang siya talaga.
Niya lang.
Niya. Minix-mix niya.
Tayo, balikan lang natin yung sa PPI, role. Di ba sabi mo, hawak yung mga community newspapers. Ano bang nangyari ngayon? Maraming nawala? Anong problema nila?
Yeah, so revenues is really a big threat right now for community newspapers plus readership. May mga nagsara na. The last one that I know is yung Midland Courier sa Baguio, no?
Wow.
And nakakalungkot yon every time may community newspaper na nagsasara kasi if you understand how media works, hindi lahat ng boses sa media ay pantay. Mas malayo ka sa Imperial Manila, mas malayo ka sa Tabakuhan, kumbaga. So yung boses ng nasa Visayas or yung boses ng nasa Mindanao, hindi yan kaagad-agad na amplify sa mainstream media na Manila-based. Kaya mahalaga yung mga media dun sa lugar nila. Kasi ang sinaserbisyohan nila ay community rin nila. And they are part of that community. Yeah. So it would not make sense na sirain nila yung community nila. So pag may namamatay na gano'n, nakakalungkot yon kasi that's another voice that's...
What PPI, ano yung action ng PPI to save this kind of
madami, no?
dying community?
We've been giving trainings. Digitalization kami.
Okay.
Kasi we realized nung pandemic, maraming community media ang walang websites. So kinailangan pa namin silang tulungan na gumawa ng websites nila. We also formed the PPI News Commons. It's like a curated it's a website that curates all the articles galing dun sa mga members ng PPI. So isang website lang, pwede mo na makita lahat from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao.
In general, ngayon, we're patapos na tayo sa natin. In general, what can you say about the state of journalism or state of Philippine media today?
I think we are at that point where we really have to challenge ourselves, no? To do better, to perform better, to be more truthful, to be more ethical. We cannot give up because kung wala ng media, mas mahirap naman yun, di ba? Kung wala kang sources of vetted information. So, multi-issue yung kailangan nating i-address.
You have so many challenges, no?
It's sustainability, it's viability, it's the public trust that we're trying to regain.
Personality.
Oo, ang dami talaga.
Ang
Ang dami.
How about the government?
Well, eto joke natin to sa Malacanang noon. I don't know if you remember. But we've always said presidents come and go.
Yeah.
Media will stay. Kaya dapat mas matino yung media. Kasi siya yung magre-report kahit sino pa yung nakaupo dyan.
How about the relationship with the government?
I think it's always been, on the one hand, a bit adversarial. On the other hand, in differing
Yes.
kumbaga gradation ng being friendly to each other, no? Like, tayo, based on what we've encountered, si GMA was not that friendly to the media. Pinoy was a bit too friendly to the media.
A bit friendly, but there was also a time na
Yung una,
naging
medyo
siya,
parang...
Yung binanata niya yung ABS, diba? Remember? TV Patrol.
So, again, governments come and go. After 6 years, you have a new president. Yung media mo, andun pa din. So, dapat i-challenge natin yung sarili natin na for us to be able to transcend, and to be able to survive all of these challenges, we really have to do better. That's the only way to go about it.
How about yung relationship ng media with the watchdogs?
Well,
Yung dynamics ba?
parang wala namang problema. Of course, you have CMFR, you have watchdogs ng media or watchdogs outside of media.
Watchdogs.
Media watchdogs serve a purpose, no? They remind us constantly kung ano yung hindi natin ginagawang tama or saan tayo nagkukulang. And tingin ko dapat we're all really open to being criticized, no? We should always be open to accept criticisms and to improve.
Yeah.
Hindi lang yung tanggap ng tanggap, but also to improve.
According to Reuters Institute reports, I think this is, meron din kayong
Prepared by, I think si Yvonne Chua.
Okay.
Professor Chua ang nag-prepare niyan.
37% lang ng Pilipino ang nagsasabi that they trust
Mainstream.
news.
Yeah.
Trust in news. And in 2025, that number ticked up slightly to 38%. It indicates relatively low public trust overall, somewhat stable in recent years. So GMA Network has topped the trust rankings among Philippine news brands with 72%. And it shows that legacy media still retain higher trust compared to many newer independent outlets. 67% of Filipinos are concerned about online and disinformation, and you are correct. So this is not just a media concern, kundi ng buong Filipino society. Kasi ang biktima talaga dito ay hindi naman media kundi, hindi lang media, kasi kayo ang media napupukulan, di ba? Kayo ang nasisisi. Kundi ang taong bayan na naloloko.
Saka ang mas masaklap kasi dyan, tumataas talaga traditionally ang disinformation and misinformation pag may crisis at pag panahon ng eleksyon.
Correct.
And those are important times or periods in our history, no? Kasi halimbawa, nung COVID pandemic, ang taas ng level ng disinformation. Nung eleksyon, ang taas din. Because syempre, ang daming nagbabanatan ng mga politiko. So all the more na dapat nagsistep up yung media mo to vet those information.
Yeah, totoo. Ang daming concerns pala talaga ng media ngayon. No, not just from issue of corruption, issue of ethics, but up to the technology side, AI, So ang daming concerns at
we're not even talking about proper pay. We're not yet talking about
actually may mga
safety.
May mga pending bills, yung media workers welfare bill pending sa Congress. What can you say about those proposed legislation?
I think it's Kasi alam mo ang problema sa media, hindi tayo masyadong mapaglaban pagdating sa sarili nating karapatan. Kumbaga makikipagpukpukan tayo para sa karapatan ng ibang tao.
Masokista
Pero
ka.
yung ipaglaban natin, halimbawa yung, uy, ba't ang baba ng sahod ko? Bakit wala akong SSS? Bakit pinadala niyo ako sa Mindanao na wala akong proper gear? Bakit pinatakbo mo ako ng Taal Volcano habang sumasabog ito?
Walang mask.
Nang walang tamang mask, hindi
Yeah.
face mask ka?
Correct.
So yung mga ganong bagay, hindi natin masyadong napag-uusapan. Pero actually, dapat pinag-uusapan. Safety issues, bago ka ba nagpalabas ng tao mo, may training ba yan? Alam ba niyang dumapa kapag may granada dyan na pumutok? The other week or 2 weeks ago, nag-training kami ng mga estudyante ko ng physical safety. So, kandada pa sila dun sa classroom nila sa UP kasi may sumisigaw ng granada habang nagle-lecture. Ang worry ko lang, yung kabilang kwarto, ang lakas kasi nung sigaw, baka pati yung kabilang kwarto na dumadapa yung mga estudyante nila. First aid kit, for example.
Yeah.
Ikaw ba, nung naging reporter ka, nabigyan ka ba ng training na pag nabarel ka, pwede mo palang gamitin ng napkin?
Oh.
Well, at least panghinto ng blood, no? Kasi absorbent nga yung napkin. Diba yung mga ganong simpleng bagay na hindi siya actually simple pag nasa field ka na. Kasi pag doon ka pala ano bang gagawin ko para ako nag-hyperventilate? We're not even talking about PTSD.
What's PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
Wala tayong debriefing madalas. Pupuntahin ka sa isang delikadong coverage.
Walang, alam mo yung stress debriefing after.
Yes.
Yung
mental health,
post-trauma, something.
So marami pa tayong pwedeng pag-usapan. Dapat pag-usapan. Dapat pinag-uusapan. Hindi lang pag-usapan ng ganito, kundi as an industry, dapat pinag-uusapan natin. Kasi we also have to take care of ourselves.
Ako, I believe that it's not just sa intra-industry, kundi sa buong, pati gobyerno, pag-usapan din natin to.
Oh, yeah.
Dahil karapatan naman to ng mga manggagawa.
Lahat ng manggagawa may karapatan to their mental well-being.
Correct.
May karapatan to their safety, proper pay, proper benefits, lahat ng yan.
Yun nga yung misconception ng mga tao. When they say, media ka, anchor ka, reporter ka, siguro ang laki ng kinikita mo.
Hindi po totoo yan.
Hindi po totoo yun. Oo, glam lang yung alam na kunyari kilala siya. Pero no, hindi po ganun kalaki ang sahod ng atin pong mga kasamahan.
In fact, meron pa tayong mga, for example, photographers who are still paid, 150? 200 per photo?
150 per photo.
Per photo.
Wow.
In one province that I know, meron pang 75 pesos per photo. So isipin mo, isang photo mo lang ang gagamitin sa iloob ng isang araw. Yun lang kita mo.
So we are really underpaid, underrated.
Underpaid. That forces you sometimes to accept racket. Kasi paano ka makakabuhay ng pamilya?
So, ang dami talagang factors kung bakit din...
Ang dami. Sobrang dami.
Nauuwi pa nga yung ibang... ang dami factors kung bakit may pumapasok sa korupsyon yung ibang mga media na nauuwi naman sa patayan.
Yes. Interrelated ang safety, sa labor issue. Again, I think it's really time to be talking about that. We have formed a group, in fact, of conveners, yung Media Movement for Media Safety Philippines. Last year, we had our summit and then we tried to invite hindi lang print and digital but even from KBP, for example.
Yeah.
And then next year, we'll have another summit. We're trying to integrate yung safety issue sa media natin.
Yeah. Pero ngayon na digital na yung era natin, sana mabigyan ng focus yung industriya ng media bilang part ng, karamihan naman ng part ng media, part din ng creative industries.
Yeah.
Diba? So I think it should be a priority also of the government, especially sa paggawa ng mga polisiya na nakakatulong sa ating pong mga kasamahan. Anyway, last question. What is your biggest hope and biggest fear for the industry?
Oh, God.
For the media and journalism? Philippines,
Siguro na lang, biggest hope. In my first year of teaching sa UP, nag-worry ako na hindi na kasi gustong magbasa ng dyaryo ng mga journalism students ko. So parang ibang-iba na rin ang platform na gusto nila and source of news nila. Ang worry ko lang talaga is yung baka wala yung critical thinking. So what I did was to ask them to do a TikTok video. Sabi ko, sige, gawa kayo ng TikTok video, tas ang focus natin, either disinformation, misinformation, or malinformation. Bahala kayo kung anong gusto nyong gawing topic. And one of them made me feel that there is still hope. Ang video niya is on the Gaza war.
Oh, very timely,
Hindi siya pumosisyon. Pero ang sinabi lang niya, we should question why some media would call them terrorists and other media would call them freedom fighters. So nakita niya yung nuance na yon.
Wait, sinong media to?
So some foreign media, for example,
Western media would
call terrorists. Other media
Arab media would call them freedom fighters, right? Tama.
Nakita niya yung nuance na in using certain words, you are giving credence or removing credibility ng isang grupo just by using those certain words. So, critical thinking is there. It's still there. Our kids are okay.
Yeah.
Alam mo yun, may pag-asa tayo kasi yung bagong dugo na papalit sa atin.
These are Gen Z Alpha students.
Critical pa rin mag-isip.
Mas ano ba? Ano bang nila? Paano ba ang mga Gen Z Alpha journalist?
Well, kasi naman yung class namin, wala silang choice kundi magsulat, no? Pero masipag sila. Masipag, alam nila yung balita, kino-consume lang nila in different ways. And hindi na natin pwedeng idikdik sa kanila na magbasa kayo ng physical na dyaryo kasi hindi na yun ang kinamulatan nila. In fact, even their body movement is different. Paano ka kumuha ng picture? Body movement.
Paano kukuha ng picture?
Yeah.
Camera?
Ay, oh my God, kasi bas bata ka sa akin. Kasi akong body movement ko ganon eh.
Okay.
Yung literal na lumang camera. Ngayon sila, ganon, diba?
Oo.
Or paano ka magsulat?
Ano to?
At least tayo ganito pa. Sila ganito na.
Oh my God, they don't know how to write,
Long form is difficult for them na.
Gabi.
So, diba, the technology changes you. In the same way, you also impact the technology. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng Luddite na labanan mo yung teknolohiya.
Baka hindi na nila alam kung paano yung cassette tape.
Siyempre naman. Or bakit kailangan lagi kang may pencil at sa cassette recorder mo.
Anyway, your biggest fear. Kanina biggest hope yun eh. Biggest fear for journalism. Extinction?
Hindi. Actually, hindi eh. I think we will adapt eh.
Yeah, of course.
The platform would change but we will adapt. Hindi mangyayari or tingin ko hindi tayo aabot sa panahon na walang mangangailangan ng tamang information. Kahit paanong sabihin mo, the moment na magkabagyo, saan ka hahanap ng information mo?
Media.
Hahanap ka naman doon sa pwede mong pagkatiwalaan, di ba?
Totoo.
So, maraming challenges, pero tingin ko, hindi mawawala ang media. Mag-evolve lang talaga siya.
The fourth estate
will
will stay. No? Wow.
And on that note.
And last message, final message.
Madaming dapat...
Professor.
maraming dapat pag-usapan kung tutuusin at dadalumatin mo. Kulang talaga ang siguro 1 o 2 oras in discussing, because decades of not talking about internal issues, external issues. So, but I think there's hope. We should not lose hope. We should parang pag-ibig lang yan. Kung tama, gawin mo kahit mahirap.
Oh. Talagang na-connect
ang badoy.
Thank you, Te. Thank you sa time. Thank you so much, Professor Joyce Pañares. Again, this is The Right Show on Record. Ito po ang Totoong Kwento.